with Zeiss Zen software as well as their investigative software to optimize the image parameters and then acquire the SRS for the status. So Sue, before we continue, why don't you tell us a little bit about the hardware configurations that are required for doing this kind of stereology?
Sure. So, if you are a current Stereo Investigator customer right now, you're very familiar with what's required in order to use your software efficiently. One of the hallmarks of it is calibrating your objectives to match the scaling for your acquisition device. In this case, it's usually a camera. Now that we're integrating with the Zeiss LSM confocal, we also need to define lenses for each of those laser lenses that you're going to be using. And that includes zoom and image size parameters as well. So if you have a 100x objective, you would calibrate a lens for that 100x objective, the 100x objective with a zoom of 5 and an image size of 512 by 512. It's as simple as that.
And so this is so that when images come from the LSM and the Zen software and it comes into the Stereo Investigator, the two pieces of software can communicate as to the appropriate dimensions of the image, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Because what we're going to do is we're going to combine the efficiency of using a digital camera for the very fast image acquisition display that you want to use for delineating the region of interest at low magnification, but at the same time we want to use the laser scanning confocal to acquire those crisp images at high magnification.
The idea here being that the laser, because the confocal is imaging one point at a time, it takes a while to generate the image because you have to scan the tissue, whereas the camera can generate the image much quicker. Correct?
That's correct. And so we're going to perform part-centric calibration for all of those lenses so we know where each one is pointed. And we're going to connect the hardware, so the Zeiss 7 series LSM, for example, to the Stereo Investigator software system. We're going to match each objective to lenses so that we know when you select an objective on your nose piece, which lens should be selected based on which imaging device you're using, the confocal or the laser. Stereo Investigator does that automatically for you. Once it's set up, you don't need to worry about this anymore.
Right, and so it's important to know that this is something that gets done during the setup of your system. The idea being that once it gets set up, the user no longer has to worry about it. They can just go back and forth between these various settings and not worry about the interaction with the software.
Absolutely. This is a one-and-done type of situation. It's done and then the system is configured for the first time.
Great.
On the Zen confocal side, you will be familiar with using Zen software to set your image acquisition settings. In addition to using Zen for that, we will also require that the objectives are calibrated and the confocal calibration is done. When you're using a separate camera to do your tracing in Stereo Investigator, we'll configure the microscope to automatically select that light path when you want to use that device. And then finally, we'll set up a NVS Connect macro in order to connect the LSM microscope to Stereo Investigator.
And the NVS Connect macro will be a key feature in at least one of the steps in the workflow. We'll point that out and show you all how that gets used.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much, Sue. What we'll do next is we'll actually get started demonstrating how this process is performed. To do that, we will begin by working in Zeiss Zen. We will choose the excitation wavelengths. We will optimize our laser settings to improve our image quality. Critically, we're going to want to make sure that our area disk size is set to the same value for all of our imaging channels. As we mentioned previously, the area disk size has a direct relationship to the thinness of the optical section that you will be acquiring. So it becomes important to have every laser channel that you're using to image have the same, have the same optical section thickness, even if that means setting different area disk sizes. Finally, we will launch the NVS Connect macro and Zen and connect to Stereo Investigator. So, let's begin. So, let me just show you here that in Zen 2010, under the macro dropdown, we have a function that says NVS Connect. Launching that launches the NVS confocal link macro, and as you can see, it's now working to communicate to Stereo Investigator. In Connect, now puts Zen in the position where it's waiting to hear from SI. What we're going to do first is set up our imaging. We'll begin with the light path by setting up our our laser excitation channels. Here we're going to image text and enhance GFP. Zen allows you to tailor the bandwidth of your imaging so that you can image various world forms, even if they should have some overlap in their spectrum. In the acquisition mode, we're going to verify that we're using the objective that we wish, the frame size of our imaging, as well as various other settings. We will have no averaging in this image. We will verify our image size and pixel size. The channel option allows us to verify our laser power and also set up the area units for imaging. Users of this system will want to make sure that the optical section thickness results in the same value across both imaging tracks. This may require setting different area units, as the area unit is defined by a relationship to the wavelength of light being used and the numerical aperture of the objective. Once we have set these parameters up, we are then free to move on to the next step. So after we set up our imaging parameters in Zen, we're going to launch Stereo Investigator. Something to note here is that there will be a few steps that are different from the conventional workflow. So after Stereo Investigator is launched, we connect the two pieces of software through the NVF Confocal Connect macro. We're going to select all the connection is made between the systems, and Stereo Investigator populates all of the hardware lists. Once we set a reference point, we will hit the live image button. And what you see here now is a live image is being generated not from the photomultiplier cam, from the digital camera. As Sue mentioned, this is an important aspect for the ability to quickly find your region of interest and to delineate it. After we reach the region that we're interested, we will go to the acquisition menu and launch the Acquire SRS Image Stack workflow. For users who are familiar with us, this process will be familiar with our software, and this process will be very familiar. For those of you who are not familiar with this process, the workflow takes you through the entire process of performing SRS image stack acquisitions. And you can view more about this on one of our webinars that we post on our website, and we'll indicate where that is. So in step one, we are indicating some parameters such as the number of sections we will count and the section thickness. Now, step two is one of the steps that is slightly different. Here, we're going to switch lenses. Begin tracing. This process will be the same as if you were using a wide field fluorescent microscope or a wide field fluorescent microscope with a stark illumination device. After the tracing of the region of interest is finished, we get the next step to select the regions that we wish to collect images from. Now, we're going to switch from the digital camera to imaging with the laser to capture the images, and you'll be able to see that the scaling has changed to match what we see in the digital camera.
Right, you can see that the Stereo Investigator is recognized, first of all, that you have a confocal, second of all, asks if you want to use it, and then when you say yes, it automatically selects the lens scaling that's appropriate for that device.
Right. The context of confocal stereology. Here we're setting up our stereological parameters like the X, Y, Z, or the X and Y components of our dissector, as well as to indicate the systematic random sampling grid distribution. From step 8, we will be setting our guard zone heights, our probe heights, as well as our mounted thicknesses. The mounted thickness height can be obtained empirically. Again, hitting the live camera button, we've already previously selected that we wanted to use the laser focus on focal. And now we can focus up and down, and my favorite process, and I'm sure many of you do this as well, is to focus up above the tissue until you're completely out of focus, and then come down until something is in focus. We'll call this the top of the tissue. We'll then focus down all the way through the tissue, past the bottom, and focus up until we can start to begin to see things deep and focused. We will call this the bottom of the tissue, and the difference between the two, the mounted thickness.
Yep, and anybody who's done stereology before knows that what you cut the section at and what it shrinks to by the time you're done with your histological processing are rarely the same.
Correct. So, after we have set up our stereology parameters, the next step allows us to save our images and allows us to name all of our images and our DAP files.
This is important because it's going to automatically assign a name to each of those image sets that we're going to acquire.
Step 10 is one of the few places where the workflow differs from a conventional wide field fluorescence or central illumination, is at the top of the section is set in a combination of set investigator, Zen. So it's at the top of the section, we'll navigate into Zen, and when we're set right at the top, we will hit the resume button on the NDF macro. We will then move the page to the next location.
Use Stereo Investigator.
Set the top of the tissue section in Zen, and then press the resume button in the NDF unincorporated macro to set that top.
Yep, so you're just going to toggle back and forth, but the best part is that Stereo Investigator and Zen know when they're each supposed to play a role, so it's seamless.
And so the data from Zen that you just dictated by saying the top of the tissue gets ported into Stereo Investigator, and a topographical map is generated. We can then save all the configuration settings that we've generated in Stereo Investigator for future use. Here, we're ready to begin imaging, and we press the Start Acquire button. And what you can see is if we go back and forth, if we go to Zen, you can see that Zen is now driving the LSM hardware to generate our image stacks.
And it's operating unattended at this point, so what it's going to do is it's going to move to each XY location specified by Stereo Investigator. Stereo Investigator will tell the stage to move to those locations. Then, when you get to that location, or when the stage gets to that location, we'll automatically navigate through the section thickness to acquire the desired image stacks that you want, whether it's the entire mounted thickness, just the probe height, or a combination of probe height, guard zone, and images above and below.
Correct. And so what you're seeing now are the two pieces of software as convention interacting. Stereo Investigator driving the position of the stage in X and Y, and then the Zen software driving all of the functionality of the laser scanning microscope.
So this is the point where you could leave the scope to continue to work and acquire these image stacks all by itself. You don't have to be here for this process. And in fact, what we're demonstrating now is relatively short. We only did one section, but Stereo Investigator allows you to specify capture of multiple sections and assign them all to the right locations for you if they're all located on the same physical glass slide. And so you can really set this up to acquire bilaterally 12 to 15 sections if you want.
Right. Once you get your imaging parameters established and the rest of the hardware set up, it's really a quite simple process to get through. So here we see that Zen is finishing up, I believe, the last image stack.
And once it's done,
so once it's done, we go back to Stereo Investigator. Stereo Investigator knows that our run is completed. It automatically is saved. And then we hit done.
Okay, so what do you do once you've let your device conferences run all night collecting hundreds of image stacks and naming them for you and putting them in a space where you can get them later? We're going to take you through the process real briefly of now what. And the option is, or the next thing. Through this LSM microscope also means that you can use your LSM to acquire virtual tissue images that can be used for tracing neurons or using autoneuron in our Lustra product as well.
Correct.
We're going to be at Neuroscience like we are every year, and we encourage you to stop by. Let us know what you are really hoping to do. Let us show you what we can do, and And importantly, let us show you how the LSM and Stereo Investigator work together.
Right. We'll have an LSM at our booth, and we'll be more than happy to give you a demonstration.
Yep. So we're going to be right on the main aisle. It'll be very easy to find us. We're at the intersection of the poster aisle and the main aisle.
Visit us at 1437 and also visit ZEISS at booth number 2809.
Yep.
From all of us at MDS Bioscience and ZEISS, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We hope this has been informative, and we hope to see you at the next webinar.
Thank you. See you in DC.
Bye-bye.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the second webinar from MDS Bioscience. My name is Susan Hendricks. As staff scientist, I also run the day-to-day operations of MDS Labs, a contract research facility for stereology here at MDS. Today I'll be demonstrating how to use the optical fractionator workflow in Stereo Investigator. At this time, please take a moment to adjust the volume of your speakers. My voice will not be as loud as that text voice, so you may need to turn up the volume. The webinar will last 60 minutes and is divided into 4 topics. The goal for today's webinar is to provide practical demonstration of the stereological method to optical fractionator. There will be a short break after each topic where I will address questions that have been submitted via the question window. If you have additional questions that are not addressed by the conclusion of the presentation, please send your questions to info@mdsbioscience.com and we'll respond to you directly. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm going to assume that's a yes. Alright, let's get started. Using the optical fractionator, an unbiased estimate can be obtained irrespective of size, shape, and orientation of the object. The optical fractionator will calculate a number estimate. Thus, unlike density measurements, any volume change that may occur as a result of your experiment will not impact the number estimate. The optical fractionator uses a few simple principles to guide you with counting objects. Resources for stereology theory and application notes. Understanding the principles of the optical fractionator will certainly help you understand and use our software effectively. Today's talk will focus on using Stereo Investigator to implement the optical fractionator. Before we move to the demonstration, let's pause for a quick review of the optical fractionator method and how to count using the counting frame and optical dye sensor. The optical fractionator uses 6 sections and estimates the total number of cells from the number of cells sampled with a systematic, randomly sampled set of unbiased virtual counting spaces covering the entire region of interest with uniform distance between unbiased virtual counting spaces in direction X, Y, and Z. Creating an unbiased subfraction called the volume fraction of the total volume of your region of interest contributes to an accurate estimate of the total population to be derived from cell counting gained from that cell subfraction. Each object must have an equal opportunity to be counted once and only once, which is achieved by using the unbiased counting frame. An object is counted if it lies completely inside the counting frame or it is touched by a green line but not a red or exclusion line. To demonstrate this idea that the counting frame guarantees that cells are counted once and only once using this methodology, let's take a look at an example. The optical dye sensor probe is laid down on a systematic grid that is randomly placed on the anatomical area of interest based on the area's input fashion. When the area sampling fraction is equal to 1, the counting frames are tessellated. By demonstrating this, it allows us to ensure that we're following the principle that each object is counted once and only once. So cells that are wholly contained within the counting frame would be marked. Those that touch the green line, like not also a red line, would be counted. So these two would be. Any object where the unique point comes into focus at that portion, that object would not be counted. For this demonstration, we'll assume that for the shown focal plane, these profiles represent the cell top as the unique point that is in focus. So when we move to a counting frame that is right next to the one that we were just at, you can see that the cells that were not allowed to be counted in the previous counting frame now meet the criteria to be included in the analysis. As we focus through the section, now we will mark the object where the unique point comes into focus within the dye sector. So as you focus through the tissue, you'll mark the cell tops as they appear in the counting frame, meeting the criteria to be included in the analysis. Does anybody have any questions about the principles of the optical fractionator method? We'll pause now for any questions that you have. Please submit them through the question window. Okay, let's move on to technology and equipment requirements if nobody has any questions. Technology is critically important to efficient and practical application of the optical fractionator method. Your sections must be regularly sampled and available for analysis. You'll want to maximize your post-processing section thickness. Having many focal planes through your section thickness are required for practical use, so the thicker your tissue, the better. You'll want to minimize the damage due to processing. This could be through interactions with the knife blade, because this will impact the size of the guard zones needed to ensure that each object has an opportunity to be counted once and only once. Additionally, your staging must also penetrate the entire section thickness for this reason. You must be able to both visualize the boundaries of your region as well as the cell population of interest. Therefore, accuracy may be required. Modern application of stereology method is accomplished using software-controlled microscope equipment, permitting semi-automated data collection. Software to control the equipment is necessary to ensure true randomization of probe layout. A motorized gauge will drive the microscope to each sampling site. At each sampling site, you will mark the object within the dye sector. The Z-encoder will provide a reading of the Z position, which is critical since we will not sample the entire section thickness. Finally, you must use an objective lens that provides the needed resolution and depth of field. Polar illumination should be achieved prior to beginning counting, so like your counting magnification, since it will optimize your optical resolution as well as decrease eye strain. Many hardware configurations are suitable for performing the optical fractionator. Today, I'll be performing the demonstration on a Zeiss Actio Imager Z1, like the one pictured, which has a motorized objective turret and an internal Z motor and encoder. A Ludel X1 motorized stage is controlled via a joystick, and a live image feed will be sent to the monitor with an optronics microfire CX9000 camera. All hardware is controlled by version 9.04 of Stereo Investigator. I recommend performing stereology with a computer equipped with the latest version of Stereo Investigator in dual monitors. The increased workspace supported by the second monitor allows you to keep software features that increase your efficiency available during the counting process. However, due to the webinar format today, the demonstration will only use one monitor. Okay, before we move on to demonstrating the optical fractionator workflow, let's pause for any questions that you have. Okay, I have a question from Michaela Santos, who asks, when the count is exhaustive, must we change the rules just described? I believe that's in reference to how you use the counting frame, and the answer to that is absolutely not. The rules are the same regardless of your staging of your counting frame. So regardless of what size your grid size is set to, you should always follow the rules for the counting frame. Keeping track of the inclusion line, the green line, and then also the red line. You'll make your decision whether or not to include the object into your analysis based on when that unique point of your cell comes into focus within the dissector. Lindsay A's has a question about what section thickness is suggested. There's not necessarily a right answer to that. I will tell you that the thicker your section thickness, as long as the staining penetrates the entire section thickness, that's a key consideration. The thicker it is, the better. You want a minimum of, you need a number of focal planes to be able to distinguish when the cell comes in and out of focus, and also when it comes interacting between the guard zone and the start of the dissector. So many focal planes are really helpful for that. You want at least 10 focal planes, generally speaking, if you're counting cells. Peter Brushes, who I used to work with at the University of Virginia, asked, can you define cell top? I will, when we move to the practical demonstration. So once we have a live image, I'll show you what I mean. But whether or not you choose cell top, nucleus top, or maximum cell perimeter, the object, the unique point of your object is the criteria that you use to include the